I'm Leandra the TBR0 and welcome to my TBRathon announcement video. If you weren't around last year and have no idea what TBRathon is, it is a month-long readathon happening in January. It's starting the 1st, going until the 31st, with the entire goal of focusing on our TBRs and our yearly goals. Because January is full of resolutions, big plans, it's important to start those early so that we don't find ourselves in October, November, December, realizing that we are so far from what we want to accomplish, it is insane. So that is why I have created multiple challenge activities for you to participate in, and it just allows us all to do what we need to do to accomplish these goals while also feeling that sense of community that is really perfect for BookTube. This year, I have created 3 activity challenges. I've brought 2 fan favorites back, the game board as well as the bingo board, but I also never want to exclude our mood readers, so I have a map for those reading nomads out there. Before I get into the prompts, the ways that you can win for your challenge, I do want to get some admin out of the way. First and foremost, any important links will be linked in the description. That includes a brand new Discord. So if you were in TBRathon from last year, which then was turned into TBR Harvest for October, that is not going to be the place for us to hang out. I've decided to revamp things, make it a bit more organized, but I will be providing an archived section. So if you realize as you're watching this that the new activity challenges aren't for you, you can always check out last year's or check out TBR Harvest, because I feel like we could have spooky season all year long. There are also links for the Google form to sign up for the Readathon. There is going to be a Google Drive that has accessibility for anyone who doesn't really feel comfortable with Discord, but they still want to participate and download the graphics, download the challenge that they want to participate in, as well as a form to log your books when the time comes. Because in the Discord, I have been creating this really fun GIF counter section where every time you finish a book, you can just send a GIF. Usually it's relating to the book that you read, how you felt about it, just one of your favorite GIFs. But I also do want to track how many books we're all accomplishing in January, so that's why the form is going to be there as well. Plus, if at any point during this video you realize that this just isn't the readathon for you, I always like to shout out Pages with Paige every single month without fail. She is able to compile as many readathons happening every single month as she can, and those include month-long, year-long, especially when we're talking about January. I mean, Bookemon has been rebooted, which is very exciting. There's also a bunch of bingo challenges that are happening this year that I'm participating in, but we also have week-long, weekend-long, 24-hour readathons. So depending on your pace, depending on what you want for the month of January, I suggest that you go check out Pages with Paige, because she is a lifesaver, I promise. Plus, there is merch again, which is very exciting. This time around, though, I only created 1 new shirt. It can be in a crew neck, a hoodie, a long sleeve, or a t-shirt, and it's just to celebrate TBRathon 2025. Everything that I created last year is still there, mainly because it is timeless. For instance, my shirts that are saying, "My TBR is out of this world," "A dragon ate my TBR scares me," "My TBR loves me." You get the gist. And I can't emphasize this enough. Any apparel merchandise that I create for TBRathon, whether it was last year or this year, still goes to the American Library Association. So any profits that I would see, it just gets sent right directly to the ALA, because we love our libraries and we want to support them in the best way we can. Now, if you aren't someone who needs another hoodie or another crew neck that is bookish in theme, I am also getting more into bookmarks, and I have created 3 bookmarks this year. While the apparel is being sold on Bonfire, these bookmarks can be found on my Etsy shop, and I have 3 different ones. I've got these Wintry Pines, a very simple TBRathon bookmark, and then the falling books that the Dalmatian is just watching from on the sidelines. Every single one on the back is very simple, and it just highlights TBRathon 2025. But you certainly don't need to buy anything to participate in this readathon, because it's meant to be accessible for everyone, and I would hate anyone to feel left out if they can't buy anything. All right, I'm going to try to speed through every single challenge as quickly as I can, because I don't want to waste any of your times, but I also want to be thorough. So to start with, let's do the bingo board. This one has an awesome theme. I'm very proud of myself, and I'm so excited that I'm going to be able to shout out 24 other booktubers by doing this, because we have Booktuber bingo. Yes, I have been reaching out to various booktubers across YouTube, asking them if they'd be willing to be a square on my bingo board, and the only thing that I need from them was also a prompt that they designate themselves. And let me tell you, these creators have gotten really creative, and I think that you will have so much fun no matter which type of bingo you try to get. Going from top to bottom by letter, let's start with B. The first person that I'm going to be highlighting is Bree from Locked Booktition, and we aren't surprised. She is the creator of Blackoween, so of course her prompt is going to be a spooky backlist read. So a spooky TBR book that is from 2 years or older on your shelves. Now, spooky can be up to interpretation. Typically, I would view it as mystery, thriller, horror, paranormal. And if you're someone who doesn't have a huge owned library collection at home, what you can do is use your local library and get a book that has been on their shelves for 2 years or older. So probably something that has been published in 2022 or earlier. And below Bree is Beatrice's Book Nook. She is giving us the prompt for translated read, and this is very fitting because Beatrice is from Portugal, and for this book it simply has to be read in a language that it wasn't originally from. So it can be English to Portuguese, Portuguese to English, Japanese to German. It doesn't really matter as long as the form you're reading it in, it wasn't originally published in that language. Then we have Amy Square, and this is Books with Amy Marie. Thanks to her, we have the prompt animal on the cover, which is nice and vague. Most genres will provide an animal on the cover, whether it's cute and cozy or downright terrifying. And I think this is perfect for Amy, especially because she's known for reading mysteries, thrillers, especially cozy mysteries as well. So yeah, thanks Amy for this one. Then we have Danny from Danny Dabbles, and she provided us with genre blend. I am absolutely obsessed with this prompt. Obviously, it was almost going to be mine, but I'm not surprised that Danny chose it because both of us love this. And it pretty much just means that you have to read a book that has at least 2 primary genres within its pages. So romantasy, historical mystery, sci-fi horror, sci-fi fantasy, you get the gist. Rounding out the B column, we've got Kirsten from Reading Nymph, and she is in her cozy era for sure. She has a series in which she does cozy new releases, and of course that means that her prompt is to read a cozy book. Moving on to the I's, we have Kelsey from Reads with Kelsey, and she's Canadian, so of course her prompt is going to be a Canadian author. Below Kelsey is another Canadian, not intentional, but we have Eric from Break Even Books. His prompt needs a little bit more explaining. It is the die decides. So you're gonna take a D6, you're gonna roll, and whatever number you get, you're gonna add 2 zeros to the back of it, and then you have to read a book with more than that number of pages. So if you roll a 6, you've got to read a book that's over 600 pages. Eric told me that he had this prompt not long ago for one of his readathons, and he did indeed roll a 6. So be warned, it's a possibility. Under Eric, we have Victoria from Victoria Masters. She's actually one of many people on this list that I got to meet thanks to Battle of the Booktuber, which I am participating in with Danny, our host for that competition. And Victoria's prompt is actually very interesting to me. It is Naughty's novel, or a novel from the Naughties. The way that Victoria described it is that it is a 2000s classic. So you have to read a book that was published between 2000 and 2009. Next we have Gabby from Gabby Likes to Read, and it wasn't surprising to me at all that she chose this prompt. It is historical fiction. She's a huge fan of historical fiction. I did check in with her that genre blends are perfectly fine. So yes, you can have historical fiction on its own, but you could do historical mystery, historical fantasy, historical romance, so any of those are on the table. Following Gabby, we have Abby from Pink Beauty XX. Now, she wanted a prompt that was as bold as a makeup look, so of course, she went with strong woman protagonist. If you're not as familiar with the term protagonist, that simply means main character. Turning our attention to the N column, we have Aoife from Pretty Purple Polka Dots, and as her handle suggests, she is obsessed with purple, and so she wants you to read a book with purple on the cover. It doesn't have to be the predominant color, it simply has to have purple on it. Under Aoife, we have Ashley from Realm of Kidlit Comics, and again, not a surprise when it comes to the prompt. She wants you to read a middle grade book, and I'm so excited because I don't need an excuse to read another middle grade book. Then there's me. I put myself in the center, it just seemed fitting, and I didn't want the prompt to be too hard, so I am giving you a bit of a reprieve with a mood read. So when times get tough, maybe you're feeling the mid-month mez, then how about you sit down, read a book that you're just in the mood for, and you can check me off your bingo list. Then we have Ollie from Criminali, and his prompt was short and simple. read some trash. If you aren't familiar with Ollie's channel, every single August he hosts Garb August, and this is purely trying to encourage people to read trashy literature and just enjoy it. So it could be trashy horror, trashy romance, anything in between. Just have fun and read a book that probably isn't going to be winning any awards, but we're still allowed to have fun with it. Finishing the end column is Sam from Samantha Donovan. She has chosen Pet Pick, which is so cute because, of course, she's obsessed with pets. You'll see her pets once in a while in her videos. And she has said, if you don't have a pet, you could use a child, you could use a friend, just have someone else pretty much choose a book for you. If you are going to go the pet route, maybe do 3 to 4 books, put a treat on each one, and just wait. See which one the cat decides to eat first. I'm saying cats because I'm obsessed with cats. It could be a dog too. At the top of the G column, we have Jess from the Hexed Library, and she was one of the few booktubers who actually got to choose her square first, knowing what it was going to have, because all she wanted to do was be next to her friend Aoife. So she has the mountains in her square, and she was like, what could I do with that? I know. How about to get my square, you have to read a book that was larger than the one you read before. So if you read a book that was 350 pages, you now need to read a book that's 351 or more. Under Jess, we have Rainy Blue Reads, and she actually just announced her own year-long challenge for series. So if you're interested, definitely check her out. But her prompt is quite kind. It is to read a beloved author. Her mind obviously went to Carissa Broadbent because she is obsessed with romantasy and specifically that author. But for you, it could be any other author that you just really enjoy and you want to get back to. Speaking of year-long challenges, under Rainy, we have Sarah from Wicked Reading. She has created a year-long bingo board for horror, and to match along with that bingo board, her prompt is to read a horror book. So if you're participating in her bingo board, really any square on that board will count for this one, so you can double dip. Then we have Shay from Shay Geeks Out, and no one will be surprised if you know Shay that this is going to be her prompt, and that is to read a manga that you've been dying to read. Speaking of manga, let's talk about format for a second. For this board, as well as any other challenge I present during this video, you can read via any format and any type of book. So it could be a full-length novel, a novella, a graphic novel, manga, middle grade, YA, adult, audiobook, ebook, physical book. I don't care as long as it applies to the prompt, and it also doesn't have to be 3 books in a series. So I know a lot of times with readathons for manga or comics or graphic novels, you have to read 3 volumes. If you want to put that challenge on yourself, go for it, but I'm not going to police it. I don't really care. As long as you're reading and having a good time, then I'm fine. But obviously with Shay's prompt, you can't read a novella or a novel. It has to be a manga. So, you know, within the bounds of reason. Rounding out the G's, we have Neva from Reading with Neva, and she has decided to make us all read a sports romance. I probably am dreading this prompt the most as someone who doesn't really read romance, but I appreciate the challenge, Neva. I think she secretly just wants us all to read Icebreaker. That's probably what she's doing. And then finally, the last column, we have the O's. And in that top right corner, we have Bree from 4 Paws in a Book. She has provided the prompt of LGBTQ plus representation. This could be an author, or it could be the characters within the pages. And what's perfect is it actually goes with her own year-long bingo board, which is 25 and 25. So friends, we have so many challenges you can participate in. Definitely check out these booktubers because their minds are insane. Under Bree, we've got Bia from Just Be a Weird, and her prompt is most recent TBR edition, which I appreciate so much because that is constantly my goal, and I'm definitely going to be trying to read every single book I buy in 2025, just like I've been doing that in 2024. Under Bia, we have Jo from XO Jo. She's someone I highlighted for Meet the Booktuber this past year. She gave me some really excellent recommendations, so definitely check her out, and her prompt is Latinx author. She actually gave me 2, 3, maybe 4 prompts as an option, and this is the one I chose. So yeah, thanks Jo for giving me so many options and just going above and beyond. Under Jo, we have another action related prompt. Similar to Eric and to Sam, you have to do something to find out what book you're actually going to read. And this is thanks to Crystal from Bomb Book Reviews. Her prompt is to do a pick pong pick. Now, this is linked to the fact that she hosts Pick Pongathon every single year and is part of her TBR video. So you can play pick pong, setting up 6 to 10 cups or mugs, having ping pong balls, or even just rolled up pieces of foil. And underneath each cup, you would have a prompt, and then you just throw them in to see what prompt you'd get. But if that seems like something you wouldn't want to do, but you still want to participate, you still want to get the pick pong square, then what I suggest to you is check out Crystal's most recent TBR game video, watch the video, see what prompts she gets, and simply do one of those prompts with her. And then finally, the last booktuber who was crazy enough to join me for this booktuber bingo is Marines from My Name is Marines, and she gave us the prompt of new to you author, which is something I absolutely love because more often than not, I'm always reading from an author I've never read from before because I always act like an author is a one-hit wonder. So this actually works for me. Now that we've gone through every single bingo prompt, the question is, how might you win? Well, there are multiple ways because I'm trying to keep this challenge as accessible as possible, whether you're a voracious reader or someone whose life is just so busy and you can only promise finishing a few books this month. The first way is the classic way, and that is a classic 5 squares in a row. Now this can be across, downward, diagonally, however you want to accomplish this. I also don't care if you want to be strict with yourself and say that only one book can count for one prompt, or if you want to be flexible and allow for 2 or 3 prompts to count for a book. I don't really care. Truly make this readathon work for you. If the classic bingo is boring, I have 3 other ways you can win. One of them is a blizzard blackout. So that means that you have completed all 25 prompts. For those creatives out there, I also have the snowflake, and you can see the design here, and that points out which prompts you actually have to hit in order to make the snowflake shape. And then finally, because I love a theme, we have falling snow. So follow this graphic in order to accomplish that for your bingo board. Before I move on to the next challenge, I also just want to remind you about the Google Drive folder that will be linked below. That will provide the black background, but I also know that for people who want to print, that won't be as accessible to you because that's pretty expensive. I've created a white template as well, and one that just simply has the prompts on it if you don't need the graphics. Plus, for those of us who use like bullet journals and may want to print things out, all of these individual squares that I've provided, I will also have that in the drive. So if you just want to, have a graphic that shows each prompt you've actually accomplished, that will be there for you. So again, try to make this as accessible as possible. Maybe I went overboard. Wait, there's one more thing I need to say about the bingo board. There is going to be an easy mode and a hard mode. An easy mode is just to do the bingo board however you want. The hard mode involves actually supporting the booktubers who were kind enough to join me in this venture. So what you'd have to do for a hard mode is not only partake in the prompt provided, but then go to that booktuber's channel, subscribe, watch their most recent video, and comment below that you are here thanks to TBRathon, and let them know which book you read for their prompt. So like I said, there's an easy mode, just do your thing. A hard mode is actually participating in this community and getting to know these booktubers who are honestly the best and deserve all the love. So, okay, back to what we were talking about. But moving on and putting my laptop a little bit closer to me because this one's a bit more of a doozy, we have the map for the reading nomads. I'm calling this mysterious island, this continent, Books of Paradise, and on it there are 20 different locations that you may want to visit while you're traveling the country. I've labeled them A through T, and you can see on this map that you only see the graphic with the letter, but there will also be a document that shows every single prompt associated with each site. There are no routes that you must follow while traveling this map, and that's what I think makes it perfect for mood readers. You can go to site A, go down to the island on M, up to the railroad tracks, over to the moon. It doesn't really matter. If you are someone who wants direction and you want to take advantage of this map as someone who isn't a mood reader, you can follow it A all the way through T. Maybe try to have that be your challenge. A, iceberg ahead. Your vessel hit an iceberg. Read a specific subgenre within your favorite genre, unless you want to try your luck with a floating door. B, snowy mountains. Climbers have braved these peaks for generations. It's all about mental strength, endurance, and patience. Read a book you've been anticipating for some time. This could be a new release, maybe a library hold you've been waiting for months or weeks, or just a book that you've really wanted to buddy read with someone and finally you're both free to now do it. C, chronicle cruise. Full steam ahead. Continue any series. If you don't have access to any series, read from an author you've read from before. D, bed and breakfast. A perfect place to warm your feet by the fire with a good book. Read a book with an isolated setting, or read any book in an isolated quiet reading spot in its entirety. E, the misty forest. There is no way to enter this forest but blindly. Read a book you know absolutely nothing about, and that also means you should not be reading the synopsis beforehand. F, jungle. Flora and fauna learn to adapt in their jungle setting, and now so do you. Read a book with an ensemble cast, more than 2 POVs, or more than 2 voice narrators. G, you've arrived at Hardback Harbor. The lighthouse guides readers safely to shore. Read a book that brings you comfort. H, railroad tracks. This train is leading to a familiar destination. Read a book with a setting you have been to before. This setting could be a city, province, state, country, continent. Be as specific or vague as you can depending on the books you have access to. I, major metropolitan, the most populous city in Books of Paradise. Read a book with more ratings than your previous read on Goodreads, Storygraph, Fable, or among your friend group. J, Islander's Paradise. The rocky coastline and unpredictable sea surrounding this island keep it quite isolated, but the islanders see no reason for leaving. Read a standalone novel. K, Southern Sands. Those shells would look great on your bookshelf. Read a book from an author or series you have been collecting. Obviously, if you have a large physical shelf, that means you probably should read from an author that you own more than 2 books from. If you are someone who is more of an e-reader, audiobook listener, you don't have a very big owned shelf, then instead use this prompt to read from an author that you have read more than 2 books from. 2 books or more, let's do that one. L, Swampland Tour. You took a guided tour and learned so much about the importance of wetlands and swamps. Read a book with a nature scene on the cover. M, Land Ho! Is that an uninhabited island? Read a new to you author. N, Seaside Mountains. Locals say the view of the sea is worth the steep climb. Read a book that is over 500 pages. Any age category and any format will do. O, The Great Lake. The guidebook says this Great Lake is, wait, which one is it? Read a book with all of a Great Lakes letters in the title. So if you aren't familiar with the United States, or North America, I should say, because obviously there are Great Lakes that are connecting us to Canada, there are 5. We've got Ontario, Erie, Michigan, Superior, or Huron. So what you need to do is read a book with a title that has all of the letters in one of these lakes' names. Just trying to represent my home area because I grew up along one of the Great Lakes. P, DNF Desert. Is that bookshelf a mirage? Read a book you deserted, aka a soft DNF book or series. Q, Reader's River. The wind and current are with us. Read an easy, breezy book. R, Woodlands. Get lost on purpose. Read a book you think you'll get lost in a good way. So one that you just find yourself speeding through, that you'll lose track of time reading this book. S, City of Scholars. With its strong focus on learning, the city inspires travelers to traverse its museums, universities, and galleries. Read a book on something you want to learn more about. This obviously leans nonfiction, but you could certainly read a book that's fictional, but has themes on a topic that you're really interested in. And finally, T, The Moon. It is way past the moon's bedtime. Good thing you packed Goodnight Moon on the spaceship. Read a book mostly at night. That means 51% or more pages are read after dark. And that is Books of Paradise, a map for our nomadic mood readers out there. I have to do a huge shout out to my sleuths at the Manor because they joined me in planning sprints not long ago. It was probably like a month and a half ago, and they genuinely did most of these prompts. I added in a few, switched things up depending on how similar the prompts were, but it is mostly created by them, and I'm just so grateful that I have a community like this who is down to join me in this type of creative process. So thank you, sleuths, so much. And with that said, thank you to all of my Manor guests, no matter what tier you're at, because you all are just the best. But this is no time to get mushy, because I've got one more challenge to show you all, and that is Paws and Bookshelves, a game board that is based off of Chutes and Ladders, or for some of us, Snakes and Ladders. Now, this game board is obviously pretty self-explanatory, but there are some things you might want to keep in mind. So you're going to start at the bottom where it says start here, and you can use any type of die. So it could be a D6, D8. If you have too much you got to do this month, do a D20, whatever you want to do. I support you. Or if you want to use more than 1 dice, that's totally fine. So roll 2 dice. I don't really care. The main point is that you need to make your way up these bookshelves to the top shelf and arrive at the finish line. But be careful, because while there are ladders to help you on your way, there are some precariously set book piles that may fall at any moment. You also may notice the dogs that are around on this board, and similar to Escape the Corn Maze, which I had during TBR Harvest, everyone was obsessed with trying to collect all of the black cats. So I thought, okay, let's throw a bone wink wink, to our dog lovers and allow you to collect all of the dogs. Just like with Escape the Corn Maze, you can either try to land on these dogs organically, or if you don't end up landing on those squares and you just pass them by, what you can do is add that prompt as an additional thing you have to do with a separate book, or combine that with whatever prompt you land on next. For instance, the first dog you're gonna pass is a Yorkshire Terrier, and of course, because it's a little teacup dog, the prompt is to read a book that is less than 300 pages. If you don't land on that, but you do land on debut book, you've got two options. You can either read two different books, one for a debut book, and another book that is less than 300 pages, or you can combine the two by reading a debut book that is less than 300 pages. So you're either adding 5 additional books to your TBR if you want to collect all of the dogs, or you're just going to be combining 5 prompts with 5 other prompts. Let's also address the ladders and the falling books. So if you end up landing on a square that is the bottom of a ladder, you do have to complete that prompt. So for instance, the first ladder that you're going to pass is at winter setting. If you land on winter setting, then you've got 2 options. You can either keep going on your path, or you can take advantage of the ladder and go up, where the next prompt you have to do is a 5-star prediction. You'll notice that the prompts that are at the top of each ladder are pretty advantageous. I think that they're prompts that we all want. We've got 5-star prediction, mood read, and any bingo prompt, which means that you can go over to the BookTuber bingo board and choose any prompt you want from the 25 I offer. So yeah, we want to climb those ladders. What we don't want to do is get too close to those book piles, accidentally knocking them over, and then having to climb all the way down to pick up those fallen books. You'll notice that if you land where there is a stack of books, there isn't a prompt. It's simply a shout or a cry of dismay. For instance, look out below, a long drop, and timber. If you land on any of those 3 squares, there isn't a prompt because you have to follow the books all the way down to whatever your fate will be. And those are prompts you probably don't want. We've got an avoided author, meaning an author you've been avoiding maybe because of the hype, maybe because you tried them once and it really didn't work, whatever you want to interpret that as. We've got 400 plus pages. So for some of us, that's, a piece of cake. For others, that is the worst thing to get. And then finally, the last place that you may fall is the square just before the finish line, and that one will land you on lowest rated book. So this would be lowest rated in your owned TBR, or maybe in your most recent library haul, most recent purchase haul, maybe most recent among your monthly TBR, what you want to set up. However you want to do it. And actually, now that I'm looking at it, I definitely did make every single dog prompt associated with the breed that I've chosen. And wow, I'm proud of past Leandra. But let's speed through these prompts. So again, you start here, roll the dice, and then see where you end up landing. You could land on an avoided author. I already covered that. Odd number of pages. Now, if you're using an audiobook or an ebook, you can always rely on a review site or the publisher site to figure out how many pages the physical book has. We also have 1 or more person on the cover. It has to be a person or human-like being. Like, it can't be a dragon. Those don't count. It can't be a dog. It has to be a human or a human-like being, like a fairy. Next, you've got winter setting. This either has to be a book that is predominantly set in winter, or winter plays a pivotal role some point during this book. And as I said before, it's also where you can climb the ladder if you want, but this is for you to choose. You don't have to climb the ladder if you don't want to. Moving on, we've got title begins with the. So no, a, an, this, that, these, those don't work. It has to start with the word the. Less than 300 pages, that can totally be a novella, or it could be a manga or a graphic novel that's less than 300 pages. Debut book, it doesn't have to be a new release. It doesn't have to be the author's only book published. It simply has to be the first book published by an author. 400 or more pages, again, it has to be more than 400 pages, but it could be a manga, a bind up of 3 volumes. It could be a middle grader YA, so get creative. And we've reached the bottom of another ladder, TBR backlist. So again, you'd have to complete this prompt and then choose if you want to go up to mood read or just stay where you are. 2025 goal, this could be an activity. It doesn't necessarily have to be a book that's going to be focused on your goals. I tried to provide a little bit of variety, so that's going to be your choice if it's a activity goal or if it's a book related goal. 5-star prediction, a book that you think is going to be 5 stars when you start it. Then we arrive to our first precarious stack of books. If you land on this square, you must fall with the books to an avoided author. There is no choice in the matter. Blue cover, this just has to be a book that's mostly blue, and that can be a combination of multiple shades. It doesn't have to be one specific tone or shade. It can be multiple as long as it's 51% or more. Our second dog, a genre blend, and the dog I chose for this one is a pit bull mix because I absolutely love them. They are the sweetest dogs ever, and I just think they get a really bad rep because it's bad owners, not bad dogs that we're dealing with. Then we've got a recent buy or borrow, so a recent purchase, maybe a recent gift, again, if you are participating in any holidays that involve gift giving, or if you just went to the library, whatever book is in that most recent pile of borrowed books. This also, of course, includes Libby, Hoopla, that kind of thing. Redo your last prompt. So whatever prompt you had beforehand, whether it was blue cover, genre blend, you have to do this a second time in a row. Lowest rated, I kind of already talked about this, but it could be from Goodreads, Fable, Storygraph, whatever you use. Next, we've got hyped book, and this makes sense because I chose a Dalmatian and they are very hyper, very active. If you get a Dalmatian, you better be an active person too because they deserve all of the walks, all of the runs, and so much playtime. This has to be a book that everyone's been really excited for. Now, it can be everyone on the internet, everyone on Instagram, or simply those in your friend group, whatever you want to interpret hyped to be. Cold cover. So a cold cover can be interpreted as physically cold, maybe it's got a wintry scene on the front, or it can just be cool tones like dark blues, purples, or maybe just emotionally cold, I don't know. Any prompt from Books of Paradise. Again, go over to that challenge, check out whichever site you may want to visit for a brief period of time and do that prompt. Our fourth dog is a wiener dog, and that means you have to read a book with D, O, and G in the title. Not in the author's name, not in some type of blurb on the front or back cover. It has to be in the title. Mood read, it's another top of one of the ladders, so just read whatever you're in the mood for at the time. Comfort genre, so it could be your favorite genre or just a genre that you find quite comforting when you get to this prompt. It's also the start of another ladder, so your choice if you want to climb up to the prompt that ends at the ladder, or you can stay where you are. Book rec, that's a book recommendation from a friend, family member, bookseller, librarian, favorite booktuber or celebrity. There are so many book recommendations out there. Do what you gotta do. And then we have the longest drop with this precarious pile of books, and that will send you all the way down to 400 plus pages, and you must fall. You cannot get out of this. Any bingo prompt, I already explained this one. Go to the BOOKTUBER bingo and choose a prompt of whatever you want to do. Cold word in the title. This could be an adjective, a noun, a place name, a verb. There are so many words that can be cold, so I'm not going to police this one. And then your final dog. I think this was meant to be a golden retriever, but sometimes graphics kind of make them look like labs, but we're gonna go with golden retriever because everyone absolutely loves a golden retriever. It's kind of like the hyped dog actually, but for this one you have to read a favorite trope. Another square, that's your 2025 goal, so interpret it however you want. It can be an activity or it can simply be a book that is on one of your goals. Timber! I know I was really mean because you're so close to the end, but if you land on this, you also have to fall to lowest rated book and go through it one more time to try to get to that finish line. And then you finished! You've gotten to the top of the bookshelves, you've reached that pesky book that you were looking for, and now you're ready to continue on your TBRathon journey. Okay, I think that's it. I had so much information to provide you all, so thank you for being patient, listening as I went through every single challenge, and let me know in the comments which board, if anything, you're going to be participating in, and also be sure to fill out the Google form as well so that I know that you are partaking in these events with me. Please join the Discord if that's a part of this community that you want to participate in throughout the month of January, and if you're not feeling chatty, feel free to provide any type of wintry or dog-related emoji so that I know that you were here. Okay, everyone, that's it for me. Thank you to my mentor guests. I love you all so much, and I can't wait to see everybody in January. Bye!